Imagine a high school couple who broke up a long time ago. They have to live together because their parents got married, and they can't find out about what once was, even though little by little, their feelings start to bloom again. This is the story of Yum and Mizuto, who now have to call each other by their first names because they share the same last name. They don't get along very well, but they have to pretend so they don't worry their mom. At dinner, they sit together with Mizuto's dad and Yum's mom, and they seem like a happy family. But deep down, the kids don't want to worry their parents with their personal issues. In Mizuto's room, the main character is reading when his stepsister arrives, upset because he's calling her by her first name. Since they can't use their last names like before, Yum wants him to call her sister since she's the older one. Mizuto tells her that's not true since they were born on the same day, but his sister found out she was born 30 minutes before him. Yum and Mizuto compete to not be the younger sibling by hiding their relationship. The first act wrongly loses. Yum's teasing makes Mizuto call her little brother. They'll hide their relationship from their parent, and the first one to do something inappropriate for siblings loses and has to do whatever the winner says. Mizuto agrees, and the first thing his sister does is look through her books for one of her novels to give some love to the goose. She didn't find his secret spot, but when she gets close to him, Mizuto tells her he wants to stop fighting. They could get along as before, but Yum calls him by his last name, causing him to mess up. As punishment, he must say the forbidden word to Mizuto, little brother. Mizuto nervously clarifies that he's smarter than her, but comforts her as he's tricked her before. Classes start, and they can no longer pretend not to know each other, so must arrive separately. The main character gets nervous, but clarifies that he's smarter than her, though he comforts her since it's not the first time he's tricked her like that. Classes start, and the siblings can no longer pretend they don't know each other, and will have to come in separately. After the entrance ceremony, Yum's was quite popular among her classmates, as she had obtained the highest score in the exam, and gave the welcome speech. Some guys approach Mizuto about his stepsister. He overhears them planning to use him to get closer to Yum. Yum advises him not to let them belittle him. When he goes to the bathroom, he overhears those two saying they'll use him to get closer to Yum since she mentioned their sibling, and that he's the younger one. After class, Yum tells him he shouldn't let them belittle him, and that they're just using him to get closer to her. The main character isn't bothered by it, so it's all good. The next day, Mizuto goes to school, and Yum follows behind him. When they arrive, his sister grabs his arm to clarify to their classmate that even though they're siblings, their relationship is pretty close. Mizuto looks a bit confused because she defended him. Their mom warns they're late, and Mizuto offers to cook as Yum can't. Yum recalls their closeness this morning, so she tells him to ignore it. Come see what's in the fridge. Yum recalls their closeness this morning and tells Mizuto to forget it, but he hadn't thought about it. Annoyed, she complains to a rubber duck and plans to tease him. She exits the shower in a towel, sits next to him, making him blush and stare, losing composure. Yum is upset, complains to her duck, and plans to annoy him. She sits next to him in a towel, making him blush and stare. Yum thinks he's overdoing it, but Mizuto gives her his jacket, saying she doesn't need to draw attention like this morning. Yum wanted to defend him as family. She trips over the jacket, and he catches her. He tells her she doesn't need to draw attention like she did this morning, but Yum just wanted to defend him because now they're family. She trips over the jacket, and our main character catches her before she falls. For a moment, they remember the past, and it wouldn't be so bad if they broke their rules just this once. Mizuto approaches to kiss her, but at that moment her parents arrive, so there is no other option. You must hide on the couch. Mizuto lies to his parents, saying that his sister fell asleep and was too close. A guy named Kawanami meets Mizuto. Mizuto warns against pursuing his sister. Kawanami wants friendship and asks Mizuto to turn around. Yum meets Minami during the test. Kawanami tells him he just wants to be friends, and to prove it, he asks Mizuto to turn around since Yum was way too embarrassed because he tried to protect her. During the physical test, Yum meets Minami, who has been watching her closely for a while. Minami tells her that she's just admiring something she'll never be able to have, and she's surprised that even though they have the same build, Yum has developed more. Yum tells him not to worry since she used to be like him. The physical tests begin, and Minami is impressive, unlike Yum, who has to work really hard to maintain her image as a model student. After several exercises, exercises, our main character is exhausted, and after a run, Yum faints. Good thing Mizuto was there to catch her, and Minami has to take her to the nurse's office. She admits she's not good at sports. Knowing her weakness, they can be friends. They get along. She had this image of her being a brilliant, cute, perfect student, but since she knows her weakness, they can now be friends. She calls her by her name, and Yum feels a bit embarrassed, but in the end, they both get along well. The next day, though, our main character doesn't come to class because she has a fever. Minami realizes that her brother is very attentive to her, but the next day, our main character doesn't come to class because she has a fever. Minami is very worried, but she runs into Kawanami, who just wants her to leave his new friend alone. They both seem to have some chemistry, and Minami asks Mizuto to walk her home to see his sister. The main character has no choice but to accept and tells her what life is like with his stepsister. When they arrive, he asks her to behave because Yu isn't feeling well and was half asleep. When she sees Mizuto, she remembers their time as a couple, since she misses him a lot, but her brother reminds her that he came with Minami, which seems to bring her back to reality. Minami brings ingredients to cook and asks Mizuto for help. She asks about his relationship with Yum and introducing a girlfriend. Minami asks him how he gets along with Yum and how difficult it would be to introduce his girlfriend to her, since it's pretty obvious that the main character has had one before. But Mizuto says that for now, he's single and would prefer to keep it that way. Plus, it's not like he needs to ask her permission to have a girlfriend. The food is ready, and Minami feeds him, and before leaving, she asks the main character if he and Yum are more than just siblings. Mizuto tells her that they are step-siblings, and she just walks away. When he sees Yum again, she is jealous of how well he gets along with Minami. Her brother tells her it's because she's too outgoing, but Yum tells him not to leave her alone like last time. He offers her his hand, and Yum falls asleep. Our main character recalls his love story. They met, were a couple, but drifted apart. His dad remarried, and his stepsister turned out to be Yum, his ex. They met in the library and were a typical young couple, but little by little they drifted apart and broke up. One day, his dad got remarried, and when he saw his stepmother's daughter, it turned out to be Yum, his ex, and he couldn't believe how whimsical fate could be. When his sister wakes up, she asks Mizuto to bring her a bunch of things, and after a while, he wants to take her temperature because if it doesn't go down, it could be something serious. It turns out she hasn't had a fever for a while. Yum has to apologize for pretending to still be sick, but Mizuto forgives her because she's still recovering and reminds her that she still needs to hold his hand to fall asleep. It's not the most embarrassing thing she's done, but now she's sniffing her brother's boxers. She can't let Mizuto find out. She thinks about returning them while he's asleep, but since she can still hear noise from his room, she has to wait. The main girl is really embarrassed because that crazy, obsessive side of her is starting to come back, and she can't let Mizuto find out, or else she'd have to be his little sister for the rest of her life. She considers returning it while he's asleep, but hears noise from his room, so she waits until morning. When it's quiet, she approaches Mizuto's room, and the door opens because her brother also wants to return something of hers. They go to the living room, and after losing, Yu admits she started following old habits and took one of his boxers. She confesses she used to keep everything he gave her in a box, embarrassing her brother. Now it's his turn to confess. He found the bra in the dryer and hid it when their dad opened the bathroom door. She also confesses that she kept everything she gave him in a little box, and her brother is very embarrassed. It's his turn to tell the truth, and it turns out it was all an accident because he found the bra in the dryer, and when their dad opened the bathroom door, he hid it so he wouldn't see it. Yum tries to copy his story and ends by asking if he did anything weird with the bra, like touching it or checking for padding. Mizuto hesitates, then asks Yum if she sniffed his boxers, catching her. They agree to never speak of what happened again, and since they both broke the rules, they have to face a punishment. So our main guy says that they can ask each other for something at any time, as long as it doesn't break social norms, and Yum thinks that's fair. Later, our main girl is on her way home when she suddenly sees her brother on a date with a girl who has black hair and glasses, and Yum feels jealous, so she asks Minami if she knows anyone like that. She says that his description is way too general, but she's not surprised that Mizuto managed to get a shy girl to fall for him. When Yum gets back home, she finds some shoes that aren't hers, takes a picture of them, and hides to call Mizuto. She asked him to go buy something from the store, so he can warn the girl not to be swayed by his brother's words. When he goes out, he heads to his room, but he finds himself inside, and the one who left was the girl. Yum asks him who brought her to the house, but the main guy seems confused. He sends her to check his room to see if everything is in order, and when she shows him the photo as proof, it seems like he already knows who it is, but he doesn't tell his sister. He's pretty tired, and Yum thinks he did something with the girl who just left. Mizuto doesn't clarify anything, and when he goes to the living room, he finds an extra chair in his room. The main guy has no doubt anymore. It turns out that in the library, a girl with black hair and glasses approached him to propose marriage. He rejected her, and it turns out it was Minami wearing a wig. She just wanted to marry him so she could be Yum's sister-in-law and get closer to her. She thought she could dress her up in pretty clothes and help her clean her back while she showers. So she was following him all day trying to convince him to marry her. She told Kawanami all of this and asked for his opinion. Kawanami says Minami is intense. She keeps doing crazier things until it blows up. She once had a boyfriend she adored and was with daily. 3 months later, the guy ended up in the hospital from stress. In fact, she once had a boyfriend. Minami was with him every day and adored him. But 3 months later, overwhelmed by spending so much time with her, the guy ended up in the hospital from stress. The only thing Mizuto can do is be straightforward with her to cut her obsession with Yum at the root. So he goes to his sister's room, and as punishment for sniffing his boxers, she has to go on a date with him. The next day, Yum is waiting for him and still wants to know what Mizuto is planning. When he arrives, her brother is dressed way too well, and the main girl can't help herself. He's totally the guy of her dreams, and she doesn't have to hide her happiness since they're supposed to be siblings. But at that moment, Mizuto takes her hand, and she's too nervous to protest. Kawanami gives our main guy the signal, and the plan was to make him fall in love and only have eyes for him. If that happens, Minami would drop any obsession she has with him, and for that, they needed Mizuto to look like the perfect boyfriend. But since the protagonist can't explain to his sister about the plan, he has to simply flirt with her as he was taught. Kawanami compliments her. She's happier today, so he pulls her closer. Yum tells him to let her go. Mizuto seeks Kawanami's advice since the date is going poorly, while Yum gets lost trying to find the bathroom. This was all sarcasm, as they usually joke like this, but it seems like her brother has other intentions. Mizuto goes to the bathroom to ask Kawanami for advice since the date is going downhill, while Yum got lost trying to find the bathroom from another direction and has no choice but to admit that she's lost. At that moment, Mizuto calls her and apologizes for ruining her date. She's expecting a sarcastic response from him, but her brother, being quite understanding, says he'll go look for her. That wasn't what Yum wanted to hear. She was hoping he would respond like he always does. She was used to always fighting with him, and now he's being so nice that she doesn't even know what she really wants anymore. She remembers their bond. She confessed her feelings to the library guy. On their first date, her sandals hurt, leading her to rest and get lost. Tearfully, she called him. He found her, tired but promising to stay by her side. He found her, back to his usual self. They'd now compete on book knowledge, seeming like a real couple to Minami. Through tears, she called him to come find her, and when he did, he said he was tired of looking for her, but he wouldn't leave her and would always be by her side. Our main guy finally found her, and he's back to being his usual self. This time, they're going to have a competition to see who knows more about books, and to Minami, they look like a real couple. They continue to talk about mystery novels, as it is Yum's favorite genre, and they are finally back to normal. For Mizuto, it was painful how little by little the love they swore to each other was turning into hatred, and they began to move away so as not to cause more harm to the other. Now that they are brothers and exes, he feels much better than when they used to date, and his date ends up going home separately. He gets a message from Kawanami. Minami apologized for entering his house and asked him not to tell Yum. Mizuto agreed, knowing nothing would change. Minami would remain friends with his sister. Having a rival made pursuing dreams exciting. Yum, puzzled, planned to punish her brother by taking many model-like photos, showing her old obsessive side Mizuto loved. Before they knew each other, they shared an unforgettable moonlit moment. Now, they must buy a gift for their mom, as her day is near. At home, Yumi can't solve the mystery. When her brother arrives, she plans to take many photos of him. Now, they need a gift for their mom. Yum prepares to leave, but since staring at his sister breaks the rules, he lost and must go with her. One night under the moonlight, when they weren't even acquaintances yet, they shared a moment that Mizuto could never forget, but now they need to go buy a gift for their mom since her day is coming up. Our main guy wants to enjoy his Sunday in peace, and there's no need for them to go out together to buy the gift. So Yum gets ready to leave and completely shocks him, but since staring at his little sister goes against the rules, he lost and now has to tag along. Since the train is way too crowded, they have to stick pretty close together. In the end, they decided to buy her a bouquet of flowers, and their mom is so excited that she starts to cry. Later, Yum sees one of the doors open, and it's Mizuto dedicating some prayers to their late mother. He notices that his sister is watching him and tells her that she passed away when he was just a kid, and Yum should stay by his side to give him all her support. A few hours pass, and Mother's Day makes him think that they should give their parents some alone time. They're a newlywed couple, and they probably have a lot of desire, but since paying for a trip would be too expensive, Mizuto says it should be them who go out. Yum gets more and more nervous, but the protagonist calms her down by saying that no place will receive them, so there is only one option left, a hotel. His sister is already way too red and would never go with him to a hotel, but it was just a suggestion since they can be really expensive. The next day, the main guy found a solution since Kawanami let him stay at her place, and since Minami is her neighbor, Yum can stay with her. The four of them are all set for their sleepover, and as usual, Minami and Kawanami are arguing a lot. When they're asked what kind of relationship they have, they both say they're just neighbors and have known each other since they were kids, but their relationship is still pretty distant. In that case, Kawanami wants to know how far things have gone with Yum and shouts that they've gotten really close and even reached second base. Yum is super embarrassed and texts Mizuto, furious. The main guy plans revenge by tying Kawanami with a leash to read a poem aloud, revealing Kawanami's wish to be a cop to marry Minami. Minami bangs on the wall, embarrassed, hinting at a deeper past. They go out to eat, ending up at the same restaurant, where Minami and Kawanami argue at the drink machine. At that moment, she starts banging on the wall because she's really embarrassed, and it seems like they were more than just neighbors at one point. They both go out to eat. Minami and Kawanami argue at the drink machine. Yum shows him how to mix flavors. Our protagonist doesn't know how it works since he has never gone out with friends. Yum teases him and shows him how it's done by combining all the flavors, but it turns out that Minami was just joking, and they both look quite annoyed. Minami approaches our main guy to ask for help with her exams, but it was all a plan to get back at Yum. Mizuto plays along, saying that she's better at teaching since she studies all the time because she really needs it. His sister is super jealous, and when they get back, it turns out both of them are studying. The entrance exams are coming up soon, and they're pretty tough, so a guy like him, who doesn't study, has to really push himself. He's doing it all to beat his little sister because they've always had this rivalry to see who gets the highest grade, and he encourages Kawanami to try the same thing with Minami. It's 2001 at night, and there's a full moon, just like the first time they met. Yum is wearing a cute onesie, and the main guy tells her she looks really pretty. Her sister reminds her of the first time they met. She can never forget it and says that's when she started to like him. In the present, that doesn't change anything because they're siblings, and it doesn't seem like their parents want to separate them, which is a problem for both of them because even if they don't say it, at some point, they do want to be a couple again. Days later, Minami wants to go home with Yum, but she has to go to the library to study. Being at the top of the class isn't easy, especially when your brother wants to take your spot. At night, she studies just like she always has. She used to get the best grades at every subject until Mizuto came along and beat her in one of her strongest classes. Since that day, she studied hard to regain her spot, but when she saw his face, it seemed like he didn't care. It wasn't until they met in the library that he really noticed her, and it was at that moment he realized he had fallen in love. In the present, Mizuto isn't even trying anymore, and Yum tells him that this way he won't be able to take her spot. For our main guy, that's enough, and he's still going to fight to be at the top of the class. The exams have arrived, and Yum is exhausted from all the studying. Her brother doesn't know it, but she's putting in a lot of effort because her whole social life revolves around being an exemplary student, unlike him, who always seems to be alone and doesn't care about anything. The first part of the exams is over, and our main girl is happy with her score, but Mizuho might have beaten her because it's one of his strongest subjects. She checks her score. Upset he left the exam blank, Mizuho explains it was for her benefit, ignoring others' opinions. Yum is unhappy, immersing in book. Mizuho advises her not to let others judge her effort. Little by little, she starts to lose it, and Mizuho tells her he did it because it's really important to her, and who cares if he lets himself lose if he doesn't care what others think. Yumi is still not happy, so she buries herself in her books, and the next day, Mizuho tells her that she can't decide if she's trying hard or not, and she shouldn't let people do that to her. Now she's going to take the exams more seriously than ever, and when the results come out, Mizuho comes in first, and Yum comes in second. Our main guy congratulates her on coming in second, and it looks like she won't be the perfect student anymore. Yum thinks it's the end of her social life, but her friends are there to support her. It was never about the grades, it was about her as a person, and she's pretty happy that they still stand by her. She rushes to Mizuho, finding him with Higashira. Higashira says they're friends. Higashira tells him to put on her sock. Minami and Yum wait. Higashira only talks to Mizuho. Mizuho asks her what their relationship is, and Higashira says they're friends, but the kind of friends who, if someone ever bothers him, she would let herself be bothered alongside him. And since it's time to leave, Higashira tells him to put on her socks, you know, friend stud. At the exit door, Minami and Yum were waiting for them, but Higashira is pretty shy and only talks to our main guy. Minami tells him to introduce her to Yum, but she had already left, so she explains to Higashira that Yum is her stepsister. At home, Yu is feeling pretty jealous, but now they're siblings, so all she can do is try to be nicer to him. Mizuho tells Higashira everything that's going on, and she advises him to just be honest with her, since sometimes people act differently when their way of life feels threatened. Our main guy thanks her, which makes her a bit embarrassed. Mizuho goes to his sister's room and whispers not to be attracted to him. He wants her to stop acting weird. Yum is jealous of Higashira. She knows it's wrong, and Mizuho understands. Yum asks why he dislikes her being nice. If she acted normal, their history would vanish. Calmer, she introduces herself to Higashira as his sister. Yum is jealous of Higashira. She knows she shouldn't be, as their siblings. Mizuho understands. Yum wonders why he dislikes her kindness. It's because acting normal erases their history, she values. Still, Yum wants to know why he doesn't like her being nice to him. It's because if she acted normal, it would be like their whole history together never existed, and she likes that part of him because she can always express everything she feels, even if she doesn't say it. So now feeling calmer, she introduces herself to Higashira as her sister, and they can both be friends. Our main guy tells her that Yum thought she was interested in him, but Higashira would rather be a guy than have a relationship with Mizuho. Now both of them are clearer that she really doesn't like him, and when she leaves, Minami tells Yum that it would be a good idea to help her figure out her feelings for her brother. This makes Yum remember how she confessed her feelings, since they spent the whole summer together in middle school. 1 week before it ended, our main girl wrote him a love letter. She had to gather her courage to give it to him, because she didn't want to just leave it in his locker. When Mizuho read it, he didn't feel worthy, but he still agreed to be her boyfriend again. In the present, Higashira finds a note in her locker saying she's going to a restaurant because they already discovered her secret. When she arrives, she runs into Yum and Minami, who apologize because they wanted to meet with her, but didn't know how. Even though they still know her secret, Higashira thinks they found her old tuber channel, but that's not what they meant. They already know she likes Mizuho. Higashira doesn't refuse since she enjoys being with him. Even though the girls were talking about romantic feelings, she would never fall in love with her best friend. So to convince her, Minami shows her some pictures of Mizuho sleeping and whispers in her ear about all the things they could do when they become more than just friends. Minami takes a picture of her to show that she's really embarrassed, and Higashira can't believe it. She's never felt anything like this before. Could this be her first love? And since they made their feelings clear, Minami says they'll help her go out with Mizuho. Neither Higashira nor Yum can believe it, even though the poor girl in love would rather keep things as they are. Ruining a friendship over unrequited love would be devastating for her. That shyness reminds Yum of her past, so she encourages her to fight for her love. That's the only way she'll be able to live the experiences she's been longing for with him. Will she let the opportunity slip away just because she's afraid of rejection? Higashira finally made up her mind and will do everything she can to make them more than just friends. It's a girls' meeting in the bathroom, and the first thing they'll do is assess the situation while watching them to try to find a weakness in Mizuto, something that all guys have. At the library, Mizuto treats Higashira like a friend. Higashira must try harder, using her assets to win him over with physical contact. She starts casually, then goes all in, making him nervous. Higashira doesn't see him as a boyfriend. For Yum, it's an extension of friendship, not love, just deep affection. At first, she approaches him a bit casually, but then she goes all in, making him really nervous. Actually, Higashira doesn't see him as a boyfriend in that way. Unlike Minami, for Yum, wanting him is just an extension of their friendship, so what she feels isn't love. It's just a deep and sincere affection. Still, there is one last option, so Higashira presents herself to him with some makeup on. Mizuto stays calm as Higashira nears, keeping his space. They still get along. Higashira asks him what's wrong, but he's just protecting his space, and if she keeps pushing, he'll have to put her in her place. The girls think the situation is slipping away, but Higashira asks him to style her hair, showing that deep down, they actually get along really well. At the restaurant, Minami tells her that she needs to take the next step and confess her feelings. Higashira doesn't feel ready yet, and Yum thinks it's too soon, but the more time they spend being friends, the more he'll fall in love, and the harder it will be for him to confess his love. Yum tells her that Mizuto likes spending time with her, and even though it's not romantic at the moment, she still has a chance with him. That night, she'll soon see her brother with a girlfriend. Mizuto might not accept Higashira. The next day, the girls are ready, and Mizuto will arrive soon, but Mizuto doesn't seem like the type of guy to be in a relationship. He looks good on his own, and he might not accept Higashira. The next day, the girls are all set, and Mizuto will be arriving soon. They cheer Higashira on, and when Mizuto arrives, she starts thanking him for all the time they spent together. She takes a deep breath and confesses her feelings. Mizuto thinks they would make a good couple. After all, they spend a lot of time together and wouldn't have any issues, but he can't accept her, and it's not her fault. It's just that his heart can't love more than one person at a time, and right now, someone else already holds that place. He apologizes for using another girl as an excuse, and upon hearing this, Yum can't hold back her tears. They're no longer a couple, but he's letting his feelings for her hold him back from moving on and being happy with a new love. Back at the library, nothing seems to have changed, and Mizuto and Higashira continue to be friends. In fact, Higashira wants to go to his house to check out his novel collection. She wants to find out which ones he liked the most and discover the secret stash he hides in one of his drawers. Mizuto asks her if she feels nervous about going to a guy's house, but since he already rejected her, she knows he has no interest in her, so there's no reason for her to feel nervous. Yum and Minami invited her to the mall. They helped her find the perfect outfit in the fitting room. They called her to help find the perfect outfit for her to wear to Mizuto's house, and all she has to do is let them try on everything they recommend, no exceptions. In the fitting rooms, all the clothes they pick end up being pretty revealing since Higashira has two very prominent features. She could wear her usual clothes, but that's not really an option, so what they could do is have her wear some looser clothes to kind of mimic a style more like Yun's. And since girls don't like to repeat outfits, Minami says it would be better if Yum also bought some new clothes, which reminds her of the first time she chose an outfit, because before confessing her feelings, Yum had to change her style to go to her first date. Mizuto didn't compliment her. He told her she looked cute. In her new outfit, she felt more comfortable. From then on, all the clothes she chose were based on Mizuto's tastes. Trying on her new outfit, she feels comfortable. Higashira liked it. Mizuto invited her for a book, but it was embarrassing for Yum. A day came. Mizuto invited Yum over, but she was embarrassed. Higashira wasn't nervous. Yum will stay in the room, and Higashi will read on the bed. Mizuto offered her to go to his house because she had a copy, but since they were a couple, it was too embarrassing for her, unlike Higashira, who is not the least bit nervous when she arrives. Yum stays in the room. Higashira reads a book. Yum asks if Tani is nervous, but Hiroshira doesn't care. After, Higashira's back hurts. They're on the bed, and Higashira makes noises. When they finish, Higashira's back hurts a lot, and he asks Mizuto to give him a massage to relax. Higashira and Yum are on the bed, and Higashira's ambiguous noises prompt Yum to question their friendship. They clarify it's just different boundaries due to their unique friendship. Higashira admits jealousy, and Mizuto leaves with Yum. Yum asks if Higashira has moved on from Mizuto, but she hasn't. She still likes him, but fears being replaced. Yum reassures her of their friendship and acknowledges Mizuto's importance. There, the protagonist asks her if she really has forgotten about Mizuto, and she tells her no, her feelings for him are still the same. She likes him as a guy and as a friend, but it doesn't hurt her as much that he rejected her and is dating another girl. In fact, it would hurt her more if he got another friend because she's scared of being replaced. Yum tells her that she's also her friend and understands how special Mizuto is to her. When they return to her room, she is still jealous of Higashira, but the protagonist explains that he only helps her because she is a special friend. Yum also wants him to put on her socks, and they're both really embarrassed, but they have to stop because their parents were interrogating Higashira. Mizuto walks her home, hearing her friend explain her parents now think he's her ex, as she couldn't admit her feelings were rejected. Despite this, she enjoyed the afternoon and still sees him as her best. Still, she had a nice afternoon with him and continues to consider him her best friend, which makes Mizuto wonder what would have happened if he and Yum had never dated. Would they have been able to stay friends, or would their good feelings have turned into hate and resentment towards each other? In middle school, after their first kiss, Mizuto invited Yum over to his house. It was going to be their first time alone together. They had never been in a room by themselves before, and the only place to sit was the bed, which made Yum feel way too nervous. She closes her eyes to give him a kiss, but Mizuto was thinking about reading a book together, so the hours went by, and once again Mizuto looked into her eyes, but it was because it was getting late and he had to take her home. On the way, Yum thought it was time to take the next step. They had been dating for over 6 months, and she believed he had invited her over for that reason. Mizuto dropped her off at her house, and he missed the chance since he didn't have the courage to suggest anything more than just a simple book. When they returned to school, a new year was starting, and Yum hoped they would be in the same class, but that didn't happen. They met at the library as always and promised each other that they would continue their relationship despite the distance, since they could still share in the festivities and see each other after classes. Shortly after, Yum arrived late to one of her library dates because she had made a new friend. She excitedly told her boyfriend everything and turned down one of his dates because she had made plans with her. Little by little, they became more distant until Mizuto told her to stop because he wasn't interested in hearing about her friends. The next day, Yum turns down her friends to go see her boyfriend, but when she arrives at the library, she finds him talking to another girl. She was in their special spot, and when she leaves, she joins him. Mizuto apologizes for everything he said yesterday. He felt jealous because she always talked about her friends, and he felt like she didn't have time for him anymore. But Yum asks him if that's why he cheated on her, since she thinks he has something more with that girl because she saw them chatting so comfortably. But in reality, Mizuto was just helping her with a novel. It's the first time she's seen him, and she can't believe she's accusing him without any proof. They're both tense, distancing themselves. Yum realized it was a misunderstanding, but still doesn't trust him. Mizuto feels guilty for his reaction and knows he could have acted differently. He meets her at McDonald's to apologize and try to restore their relationship. Yum accepted, but things aren't the same. They don't hold hands anymore. The distance between them keeps growing. SOS/EOS, Yumi accepted, but nothing will be the same. They don't hold hands. Young didn't apologize, and the distance between them just kept growing more and more. Our protagonist saw that the festival was approaching and decided not to invite him. This time, she missed it just like last year, but she thought he would know she was coming to the festival without her having to say anything. It's her fault too, because she didn't apologize and expected a different outcome. In the end, they stopped talking to each other for more than a month, and while Yum prepared for the final festival with her friends, Miss Little continued alone by his side. They spent Christmas and Valentine's Day on their own and decided that the healthiest thing to do was to end their relationship. For Miss Little, this whole journey had been painful. The thought that the person he loved so much could cause him such deep pain just by not being by his side. Is free, but she'll be his stepsister. Their book was trivial. Miss Little apologizes. Yumi was ready. They fought over a magical moment that couldn't happen. It turns out the book Yumi and Miss Little read wasn't even important. Miss Little apologizes for not having the courage to act, but Yumi had been mentally prepared all this time, and they end up fighting because in the end, they both wanted to share that magical moment, but it just couldn't happen. On a rainy night, Yun's parents won't be able to come home, and she has to look for her brother because a cockroach showed up in her room. Miss Little has already made the roach killer, but since he locked her in his room, they will have to sleep together for one night, and Yum tells her brother not to try anything. Obviously, our protagonist hadn't even thought about it, and his sister says it's because he's always been a coward. But the fact that they're so close can't help but remind him of their past. The next day, Yum teases him for being such a scaredy cat, and they argue so much that their parents say they look like a couple. They'll probably get confused when they go on their trip since they'll be visiting Mizuto's dad's hometown to meet up with family and have some fun by the river. In fact, Yum should buy herself a swimsuit, and her mom tells her to go with Mizuto so they can spend more time together. They're all set, and Yum wants to go incognito because if they get recognized, people might think they're a couple. In the changing room, Yum wants to know her brother's opinion since she's never bought a swimsuit before. She wants to know what Mizuto thinks, but he doesn't want to look directly at her because it would betray their agreement. Yum tells him she just wanted his opinion on how it looks or the color of the suit, and she gets really nervous realizing that she showed him everything and that he liked it. When the band returned home, they walked by their first kiss spot. The wind blew Yum's cap away. Yum closed her eyes, hoping for a kiss, but her brother brought her back to reality. At home, Young was nicer to him and their parents. They could only think that if they didn't believe they were just siblings. Days later, Higashira visited to watch a movie and lay on his lap like a puppy. Yum felt jealous. A few days later, Higashira came to watch a movie with his brother and lays on his lap as if he were a little dog. Yuma is jealous and can't believe the level of trust they have since Higashira could practically do anything without it bothering her brother. They could even get married if they wanted to. Mizuto is a bit tired of watching so much TV, but he thought the movie was pretty good. Higashi asks her if it awakened any of her male instincts since it was a movie about body switching, but Yum didn't even know the plot because she was watching it the whole time. Mizuto wants a drink but only has Yum's cup, so he uses it. For Higashira, it's like an indirect kiss. Mizuto's friend offers her lap, but he prefers his sister. Higashira leans in, liking him and wanting to clean his ears, but instead, she decides to kiss him. Yum won't allow it, insisting Higashira's first kiss should be with her. Higashira wants more than friendship, though her sister disapproves. She decides to wait and heads home. Yum won't allow it, so Higashira's first kiss must wait, but she insists it should be with him. They're close friends, and being near him makes her nervous because she wants more than friendship. She'd be fine with being friends with benefits, though her sister wouldn't allow it. She decides to wait and heads home. Alone with her sibling, Young wants to kiss him but realizes Mizuto's struggles. If the two siblings are left alone, and Young wants to give him a kiss, but she realizes everything Mizuto goes through every day. If she lets her emotions take over, she could end up destroying their family and the life they know. Her mom asks about Higashira and Mizuto. Yum says they're just friends. Her mom suggests finding a boyfriend, but Yum feels her only partner could be her brother. Mizuto called to hear her voice, but hung up because his battery was low. Yum's mom wants her to date, but she only thinks of her brother. After their first date, she couldn't stop thinking about him and the festival. Mizuto called, but his battery died. Yum wished they could talk more, but it wasn't meant to be. Mizuto called her because he wanted to hear her voice, but he hung up shortly after because his battery was dying. Yum missed his company so much that she wished they could talk while he charged his phone, but that just wasn't meant to be. They finally went on a trip and arrived at the family's house, where they met the grandmother and their new cousin Nodoka, who gets along really well with Mizuto. She came with her little brother Chikuma, who is pretty shy because Yum is just too cute. The barbecue starts, and Mizuto is reading a novel under a tree while Madoka explains the history of her family. Mizuto and his dad lived alone shortly after he was born, and now that Yum and her mom have arrived, everyone feels more at ease. Madoka compliments Yum on her outfit and asks if her boyfriend picked it out for her, but since she can't stop looking at Mizuto, her new cousin starts to get suspicious. At that moment, her brother has to leave, and he didn't even get a chance to bathe in the river. When Yum asks Madoka where he went, it turns out he's in their great-grandfather's study reading an autobiographical work by him. In it, he wrote about all his experiences during the war conflicts in Siberia and his first love in that snowy country. Mizuto gives her the book so she can learn about his story, and it's really special to him because it's the first book he ever read. While he takes a shower, Yum stays behind reading, and the nostalgia hits her so hard that she can't hold back her tears. When her brother comes back, he tells her that their great-grandfather was the last romantic and asks if he still remembers his first love. Mizuto tells her that she was a pretty cheerful girl, and he thinks he's talking about Madoka. They both have to choose a yukata because the town festival is coming up soon, and Madoka realizes that her cousin is suffering from love and she knows it's about Mizuto. Yum tells him that she doesn't know how to explain what she feels for him, and the truth is, if she's thinking all day about how to hold back her feelings for that person, it means she likes him. So she comes up with an idea to help clarify her thoughts. Later, she locks her in a room with Mizuto so they can talk. Yum can't find the right words to express herself, but little by little, she clarifies her thoughts and knows what to say to him. She apologizes for not contacting him at Christmas and accusing him. Relieved, she wants to fix their relationship. When they broke up, she felt more relieved because all those negative thoughts that had formed went away never to return, but deep down, she didn't want to end their relationship. She wanted to mend things and fight for a future by his side. However, the emotional weight is so heavy that she can't say anything more about his last name, and Mizuto understands her immediately. So just for a moment, their story will jump back to when they were happy. A few minutes by his side is all she needs to feel better, and when she's feeling a bit calmer, Yum asks Mizuto who his first love was, sure that it must be Madoka. But the truth is, the first and only woman he has ever loved is someone really cheerful, his little sister. Yum is already dressed for the festival, and Mizuto will be joining them. But first, she wants to take a picture. So her brother unlocks her phone and snaps the photo without any issues. They are both waiting for Madoka and wondering what they're doing together at the festival since neither of them is as social as they seem. When her cousin arrives, she suggests that they hold hands so they don't get lost, and Yumi agrees to take care of her little brother. They all go out together until they find a shooting game, and Madoka wants wants to win a stuffed animal for Chikuma. They are both really close because they're siblings, and when it's Mizuto's turn, Young wants to support him. But since she didn't want to get too close, she ends up slipping and they win the stuffed animal. Mizuto gives Chikuma a stuffed animal. Yum teases him. He reminds her she's not the only one nervous. They meet some parents and a grandmother's. They continue walking and meet their parents, as they are a well-known family in the town. A grandmother's friend wants to meet Yum. Mizuto vanishes yearly to call her. Gradually, the pieces reveal Mizuto's story she never knew, even as his girlfriend. Now, as his sister, she sees his special nature. Meanwhile, Mizuto reflects. At the temple, all the pieces come together to reveal Mizuto's version of events. As his sister, she can see how special he turned out to be. Mizuto was at the temple, reflecting on how they got to this point. Meanwhile, Mizuto was in the temple remembering how they got to this point. His life never had the wonders that people talk about so much. His childhood was spent in a dark place, full of people who felt sorry for him because he missed his mother. The world that others described seemed far away to him, until one day he discovered his great-grandfather's studio, and as he read his works, little by little the world began to make sense. It had colors and life just as he once dreamed. His love for books led him to meet Yumi on their first date. He found her after she got lost at the festival, and that sad, lost and desperate look reminded him of when he was little. He only knew that he had to protect her at all costs, as if he were a knight and his princess. And for him who lived among so much fiction, his love brought him back to reality. But when he lost her, his life returned to how it was before he met her. Yum finally meets Mizuto and reminds him of all the moments they shared together. He realized that he used to call her from this place to stay in touch, and he also knows that she remembers the date of their first kiss, since that was the password to his phone exactly 2 months after they started dating. He knows her perfectly and understands that she must have researched how to prepare for her first kiss. Yum asks him why he agreed to be her boyfriend, and he says it was just fate. If he had met Higurashi earlier, they would have been a couple, but she was the chosen one because she arrived first. The fireworks start lighting up the night, and Yum gives him a kiss. He knows he's in love with his former self, but now as her brother, he'll try to win her love. The next day, Madoka realizes that everything has finally been sorted out, and everyone says their goodbyes because they're heading back home. At school, friends gather. Kawanami sees Higurashi as Mizuto's rival. He knows his confession failed. Things seem normal. He immediately realizes that his confession was rejected, but Minami is there to keep an eye on her man, and things seem to be back to how they were. The truth is, they both have what you could call a relationship back in middle school. They ended things, but a feeling remained etched in their souls. Since then, the future is uncertain, but that doesn't mean they can't try to be happy someday.